First off, I want to say congrats. You did it. You stuck around for the whole nervous system series, and I hope you feel more educated on the buzzword nervous system and you've learned all that you've learned. If you've listened to the series, you now understand what the nervous system is, how dysregulation happens, and why it isn't your fault. So today we are taking action. This is the meat and potatoes episode. It is the way we are going to get you back to you and me, because I'm constantly working on this daily too, getting back to a regulated nervous system. And it is possible. So today I'm going to give you 10 evidence based ways that you can regulate your nervous system starting today. I want to be very clear that regulating your nervous system is not about becoming calm all the time. It's about increasing that flexibility and that threshold where your nervous system is not broken, but it can become adaptive to things a lot easier. And anything adaptive can adapt again. So, because we've adapted into a more dysregulated just cycle of living, we can get out of that. We can adapt to a more regulated way of living, but that doesn't mean that you are just going to live in this calm world forever. And it also doesn't mean that if you have a bad day, it's going to set you back to full dysregulation. So today I'm going to give you 10 science-backed ways to begin shifting your nervous system towards regulation. These are not biohacks. These are not tips, tricks, like little gimmicks. No, these are interventions based on automatic nervous system research, stress physiology, neuroplasticity, and behavioral science. So let's start with the foundation. The first one, stabilize your sleep. And you might be listening to this and you're like, I don't have the time to sleep. These things are going to be where you kind of have to be selfish in your life and say, I'm making the change today for myself because I can't live like this anymore. And so these are the things that I am going to make my priority, and kind of everything else in my life is going to have to take a seat back. So stabilizing your sleep. If your sleep is inconsistent right now, your nervous system will struggle no matter what, because sleep regulates your cortisol rhythm, sympathetic and parasympathetic balance, emotional reactivity. The amygdala activity increases when sleep is deep. Research shows that even one night of poor sleep increases amygdala reaction. So that means your threat system becomes a lot louder. And we don't want that. So action steps you can take if you're like, I just don't know where to begin with changing my sleep, is you can go to bed within the same 60-minute window nightly. Creating that pattern with your circadian rhythm, it gets your body ready. When you show your body patterns, your body loves patterns. It loves that safety. It loves knowing what is to come. And so if you are starting to go to bed within the same 60 minutes time frame every night, and then waking up at kind of the same time daily too, those are two things giving your body a sense of safety. Another thing is you want to have morning sunlight within 10 to 20 minutes of waking, whatever that looks like for you. If you have to take your dog out or you've got to take your kids to school, like whatever that looks like, just like getting outside 10 to 20 minutes, nothing crazy, direct sunlight if you can. If it's an overcast, still go outside, just expose yourself to that light. And then this one might be tricky for some people, but I want you to completely stop caffeine within I would say 8+ hours before bed. And that is crucial because a lot of people think like, oh, well, caffeine's half-life is only like 4 hours. So no, that doesn't mean it's all out of your system. That just means it's slowly kind of leaving your system. But I want you to just stop it completely. Try to go for 8 hours before bed. You cannot regulate a chronically sleep deprived nervous system. So that is your step one, is creating this stabilization with your sleep. That is the first evidence-backed tip. Number two, regulate blood sugar. As a registered dietitian, you already know I was going to say something about nutrition, but this is literally critical. It is so critical. Blood sugar drops trigger adrenaline. People do not realize this. People think that when they wake up in the morning, first of all, your cortisol is your highest. When they wake up and then they go get a cup of coffee and they get about their day, they have a lot of things. Think about when you wake up in the morning. It feels like we have a million things we have to do a lot of times, and we are kind of motivated or like ready to start the day. So we start kind of just like doing all these things, and the next thing we know, it's 11 noon and you haven't eaten. You've only consumed caffeine. Your blood sugar is doing odd stuff. I'm going to tell you that right now, and it's triggering adrenaline and spiking that cortisol even higher. So you're already setting yourself up for a lot of dysregulation. That is a lot. Even though if you might not feel it, it's a lot going on that you need to be cognizant of. You need to really reflect on, like, even though I'm not hungry, even though I feel like I have a million things I need to get done, really keeping focus on that regulation of your blood sugar, especially first thing in the morning, is really key. I say especially first thing in the morning, but reality is the whole day. But, give and take, right? Start somewhere. That's the other thing. Don't let any of the things I'm saying today stress you out. I want you to just start where you can and be disciplined in one area and then slowly grow from there. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So just be kind to yourself too. Like, if you're hearing all these and you're saying to yourself, I do none of that, no wonder I'm so dysregulated. Like, how did I think anything good would? No, because you're going to get nowhere with self-talk like that. So show yourself some compassion and say it ends today and it starts today. So Symptoms that can overlap with anxiety of dysregulated blood sugar are being shaky, your heart racing, you're dizzy, you're irritable, you're sweaty. That is physiology and not psychology. So the actions you can take to help regulate your blood sugar is eat within 60 to 90 minutes of waking, pair a protein with a fat plus a fiber and carb, I would say, at every meal. Make sure when you're making those meals, you're making them complete meals. Like a lot of people, they hear like protein's good for them, and the next thing you know, they have like a plate of chicken and then they wonder why they're starving in 20 minutes. It's because they just had this like plate of chicken, or say even like a chicken breast with white rice, and they still feel like, okay, why am I so hungry? It's because you're not having any of that fat, you're not having any fiber, you're really not giving yourself that satiety that you need to really be regulated and full and satiated. So really, really focus on when you make your meals, you're pairing everything together. Avoid long fasting windows if you're anxious. A lot of people get caught up in the intermittent fasting. I see it a lot in my practice. Intermittent fasting is amazing for some people. And I think a lot of times we have to look at everything people do in this day and age and say, okay, but I kind of operate like this, and knowing how we are and really saying to yourself, would that be good for me knowing what I know? And maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't know that like fasting like that and then eating and then fasting and then eating, it takes you on these roller coasters if you're doing it and you're already somebody who's extremely anxious. So I would just avoid that and see how you feel. Next, you want to reduce extreme caffeine reliance in any way, shape, or form. I had to have a come to Jesus with myself on this. I was drinking an afternoon coffee when I knew I shouldn't. And yeah, I had to just be honest with myself. Like, I feel like I can't get certain things with my job done unless I have caffeine. And that's just not true. And it's funny, once I cut out that extra cup of coffee, I actually didn't notice a difference with anything. So let that be your reminder. Sometimes it's more of a placebo in your brain, but you don't calm a nervous system that is biochemically unstable. You just can't. So regulate that blood sugar. Next is going to be, so step number 3 is reduce overall stimulation load. These are all hard ones, I feel like, because we live in a society of screens. I even think about, if I'm not on social media or I'm not working on my laptop, I'm probably watching a TV show. Or if I'm not at the gym, I feel like the gym's a really good one for me to get away from screens. But I'm really big on like making myself be busy with other stuff, because I'll be honest, I love a screen. I love the stimulation. I feel like it distracts me from reality, which that is also a sign that you probably should limit your stimulation load if you're constantly finding this wanting to escape distraction. So yeah, if you're somebody who's on constant notifications, constant multitasking, I'm a huge multitasker, which I know is not good for my nervous system. If you're in a lot of loud environments while doing a lot of things, it's just a lot. You're filling your nervous system and your intake of stimulation just piled. And that is going to make your body like alert and constantly hypervigilant, especially if you're already somebody who is dysregulated. So loud environments, chronic overstimulation keeps that sympathetic system engaged. We have to stop that cycle. So, an action that you could take starting today is you can create 1 to 2 daily no input windows. And these could be just even 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes of times you take an intentional break to get off all types of stimulations, all types of screens, anything that's really making you just feel overwhelmed. And that can look like sitting out in the sun. This would be a habit stacking, going out in the sun middle of the day, getting 15 to 30 minutes of vitamin D, and just telling yourself you're going to do it with no screen and just taking some deep breaths. Want to find a way, and I know you can do this on your phone, where you can silence notifications for certain things. So maybe you were like, okay, in business, I have to have my calls and texts and emails, but we get a lot of notifications on our phone. If you really look at your phone for all the apps we've signed up for, all of the silly things we've done, we get a ton of notifications that we really don't need a notification for. Like, we're going to look at it when we're going to look at it. So going through and really being intentional about what your phone is buzzing for. And you want to avoid scrolling before bed. I know that's a really hard one, but gosh, it's so much better for your brain to just kind of chill out rather than stimulating it right before you want to go into such a deep sleep, especially because step 1 was all about getting that quality good sleep. Another one would be consider 1 low stimulation morning per week. So that can look like waking up and making a promise to yourself that, because I know you can't do it every day, but say you work Monday through Friday, and Saturday you're usually busy, but Sunday, you have the time to wake up and have absolutely no devices, no screens, and it's just time with yourself, and it's your low stimulation morning, and that's your dedication to yourself, because regulation requires recovery periods. Just like when we work out a ton, we require recovery days. So does our brain. So the next one, which is number 4, is use physiological breathing. These are not just random deep breaths. These are specific patterns that influence vagal tone. So the most evidence backed is extended exhale breathing. You might have heard this if you've done some type of breathwork program, but like an inhale for 4, an exhale for 6 to 8 seconds, so that your exhale's longer than your inhale. And you want to repeat that for about 3 to 5 minutes. I know a lot of people will say like box breathing when you're anxious, which is great, but one of the best ways to regulate your nervous system is really holding that exhale that's longer than your inhale. Like I said, in for 4, out for 7 or 8, whatever you can do, because that longer exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And research shows that slow breathing, around 5 to 6 breaths per minute, which you'll get if you do the inhale for 4 and exhale for about 8 or 7, it improves the heart rate variability, which is a marker of autonomic flexibility. And this is super important. It's just overall important for that the things we don't see inside being regulated. And when those things are regulated, we're less likely to experience these heightened emotions that we feel. So you don't want to force this type of breathing though. Like don't make it so like where you're so focused on it being like inhale for 4, exhale for exactly 8 that you make it dramatic, but just kind of make it a gentle rhythm if you can. If you can find that rhythm of what it feels like, that would be very ideal. And it's kind of peaceful to just take time to do that. I know sometimes when I'm feeling just like I need a break, I'll go outside, I'll sit on my patio and I will just close my eyes and just inhale for 4, exhale for 7. It's so peaceful for me. Number 5, move your body, but don't overstress it. So a lot of times we get caught up in this movement is good for us. And the next thing you know, we're like an already anxious person and we're already a stressed person at work and we have all these responsibilities and things. And the next thing you know, we're at a cycle class and the music's loud and the lights are neon like you're at a club and rap music's going and you're just bouncing away at this high intensity cycle class. And you're like, wow, weird. I don't feel any better. So I think a lot of times we get confused with movement and we have to really reflect on our personality because I think that all those workouts are amazing and they have their benefits. But if you're doing just that every single day, you're going to add more stress to your life. So, exercise in and of itself improves your HRV, which is your heart rate variability, like we talked about in the last step, your stress resilience, your mood regulation. But like I said, high intensity training, while already dysregulated, can increase stress hormones even more. So, if highly anxious, I want you to more focus on things like prioritizing walking and slow cycling, like riding a bike outside and strength training and not just like clinging and throwing weights, but just like a low intensity strength training workout, mobility work. A lot of times we don't realize areas of our body, especially as we get older, we need to work on that mobility so we have the ability to use our shoulders. I know for me, my upper back and my neck, I'm actually looking into figuring out someone to go to get all that checked out because I feel like I carry so much, and probably from a dysregulated nervous system, I carry so much in my neck and my upper back and my shoulders that I should probably do a lot more work on mobility. It sounds silly and boring and not as fun as going to just do a crazy cycling class or go running or something, but these are the things that your nervous system needs and the movements that discharge the nervous system and make the nervous system believe like breathe. It's a breath for the nervous system. Number 6, build predictability. Kind of like I talked about with sleep, your nervous system relaxes in rhythm. Predictable routines reduce uncertainty, and uncertainty drives that activation of dysregulation. So, like I said, one of the first actions would be a regular waking and sleeping time schedule. That would be one area. Regular meal timing. I know somebody who eats their meals at the same time every day, and I've really thought about that. And I'm like, wow, that's very the body probably loves that so much, knowing at this time we eat this. I mean, I know that's not feasible always, but I think when you're in a season of really wanting to train your nervous system and you're like, this has been dysregulated for too long, for while you heal, while you hear, oh my gosh, the word, while you heal. Okay. While you heal, you do regular meal timing. Another thing would be having a consistent morning and night routine and staying true to that. Your body loves that. Weekly planning sessions. So, kind of getting an awareness of how your days are going to look for the week. On a Sunday, you could sit down and say, hey, this is what my week looks like. So, you kind of have this mental preparation rather than being like, what is tomorrow and what do I have? I know I do so much better when I'm mentally prepared for things. And this isn't boring. It is biological safety. Having that awareness and knowing what to expect and what to predict and what we know is going to happen is really good as we're trying to regulate our nervous system. Now, I don't want you to get so crazy with it to where you're stressing out because you didn't have your meal at noon like your meal timing was supposed to be. Just create these windows of tolerance. Like it doesn't have to be everything so exact. It's just like, hey, these are the windows I'm working with and your body will still react the same. Number 7, Create safe social connections. Really reflect on your life and all the people in it who you see a lot in your day-to-day life, and ask yourself the question, how does my body feel around them? I was about to say, how does my nervous system feel around them? But that can be sometimes hard to recognize. But how does your body feel around them? Do you feel at ease? Do you feel like you can talk about anything and you don't feel judgment? Do you feel like you're always putting on an act or having to perform a certain way or be somebody? Because research shows that safe relationships truly regulate the nervous system. So, if you're in a lot of relationships where you don't feel safe and you don't feel heard and you feel more anxious when you're around them, you're adding to that dysregulation. So, some actions you could take daily is one daily genuine conversation with somebody who really matters to you, making a point for it, making it an intention each day, calling someone instead of texting. I know that can be terrifying for some people, including myself. I literally can't stand a phone call, and that is definitely anxiety led though. But making that an intention is it's a good, safe connection. Knowing you have people there for you. Sometimes it's easy to forget who's there for you when it's just like a text and your relationships are all texting and not someone's actual voice. But making the call is hard too. Sitting physically near somebody safe, spending time with a calm person. Isolation has been shown in studies to cause many, many things in our lives that are not good for us. I know sometimes when I'm struggling really bad, I just want to isolate. I just want to be alone. I want to sit in my misery, and I really would enjoy just not hanging out with a soul. And I know because of the research I've done that that is just not good for me. And I know when I truly push myself out of it and I actually have connection, I realize how good it is for me, and to even just get a laugh sometimes around some people you love, it's more needed than you realize. So, connection lowers the threat scanning that you have if you do have a dysregulated nervous system. But once again, it's connection when you feel safe, not just connection, just random people. It's people who make you feel safe. Number 8, reduce threat monitoring behaviors. So this is hard. If you struggle with any type of health anxiety or OCD, compulsive behaviors, safety behaviors, they're hard to break. None of this I'm saying is like easy to just poof, it's going to magically happen overnight. It's going to take work and effort to catch these things. So every time you check your pulse or Google symptoms or avoid normal activity or seek repeated reassurance, you're reinforcing threat and almost telling the threat and the danger that you were thinking about that it was real. And I'm glad that we acknowledged it and worked on it. But doing that is not good for us because we're continuing the cycle of anxiety every time we reinforce it. So, behavioral psychology shows that safety behaviors maintain anxiety loops. And if you've listened to our podcast, you know that we talk about that a lot about safety behaviors and the anxiety loop, and how when we keep it going, we will never get out of it. We have to stop the cycle. So, some actions you can take are delay checking by 10 minutes. I know just a couple weeks ago, I forgot what symptom I was having. I was having something and I wanted to freak out about it. I wanted to be like, oh my gosh, we need to call somebody or go to the ER or something. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what I've learned, and I'm going to set a 15-minute timer on my phone, and I'm not allowed to do anything about this symptom for 15 minutes. And sometimes when you do that, by the end of the 15 minutes, one, you might feel a little better, and two, you might be able to recognize that you were just feeling a little overstimulated. You had a little moment of anxiety or panic or a wave, but giving yourself that time to not do anything about it and telling yourself, I'm not going to do anything about this, it takes that threat away in a sense, and it kind of lets you just calm down. So, letting a sensation rise and fall in your body and not making it this catastrophic event. So, and then lastly would be reduce reassurance frequency gradually. This is a hard one, but really figure out the ways that you seek reassurance. Know them like the back of your hand. Know your intentions when you're going to do something. Because a lot of us, if we really sat down and we really questioned why we do something, there could be a reassurance seeking behavior within it. And so, really becoming knowledgeable of what that looks like for you, because we are all so different. And then when you are having a reassurance seeking behavior, thought, or action wanting to happen, catching yourself, recognizing it, and lowering that frequency gradually over time. You're not going to, like I said, immediately just stop having any of that. So, this builds all of this, reduce threatening monitoring behaviors, builds tolerance and new learning, and the beautiful word of neuroplasticity. We can completely rewire how we do things. And it's going to take those little catching here, there, catching those thoughts, catching those compulsions, catching those safety behaviors, and rewiring them. Okay, we have 2 more, but 9. Practice exposure to mild discomfort. This is not extreme exposure. If you're somebody with health anxiety, you might be in therapy and they might be doing ERP, which is exposure response prevention. And that is kind of a different type I'm talking about. This is more just mild discomfort. So this is sitting with your uncertainty. Like I said, when I had those symptoms at one time and I set the timer, I've done that a couple times where I've set just a 15-minute timer and made myself almost like sit with it and not, I told myself For these 15 minutes, we are doing nothing about this. We are not asking any questions. We're not reaching any reassurance. We're not moving in any way. We're not tailoring ourselves to take care of the symptom we're feeling. We are just going to sit in it. Letting your heart beat faster during exercise. So exposing yourself to what that feels like and reminding yourself this is exercise. This is normal. My body is reacting to something very normal with a sensation that is very normal when this activity is happening. Going somewhere that might be mildly uncomfortable for you. So, say you've had a panic attack or you feel anxiety at certain places and you know you feel that way, going there and knowing you feel that way and telling yourself when that feeling does arise, I will not leave, I will stay, and I'm safe. Just because I'm at a different environment doesn't mean I'm suddenly unsafe. So, for a lot of people, that can be like the grocery store or like a Target or Walmart. A lot of times, the lights, the overstimulation, it can be a lot, but choosing to stay and allow the discomfort builds that threshold. New experiences, update predictions. So, neuroplastic change requires mismatch between expectations and outcomes. Your nervous system learns activation did not equal danger. So, you have to teach your brain that. Your brain has to learn that when we are activated and sensations happen and we feel certain things, that doesn't mean something bad is happening to us. We are just living a life. So, it's kind of like when you go to a concert. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but when you're there or you're somewhere like an event, your heart rate's higher, everything's kind of a little more activated. That doesn't mean you're in danger. That's just your body working the way it's supposed to. So the last one, and I'm so proud of you that you've made it this far, but oh my gosh, I had a hair tie. Number 10, think in months and not days. So the nervous system changes slowly. Like I've said, this isn't going to be an overnight fix, but your body learned in repetition. The way you are and the way we operate individually is from repetition. So studies on neuroplasticity shows structural and functional change occur with consistent repetition over time. So you're not behind, you're not failing, you are retraining a biological system that who knows how long you've been building these patterns for. But biology respects consistency more than intensity. So don't think like, I'm going to do all these 10 steps and I'm going to do them perfectly. And then in a week, when you're like, nothing's better, think about how long you've been in these patterns and expecting this to just change overnight if you've been in it for years. It just doesn't work like that because the pattern of being in it for years is a lot bigger than this pattern of just kind of like when people yo-yo diet. They do this extreme dieting and then they come out of it because the usual pattern is a longer time frame than what they're currently doing. So all in all, regulation is not a performance. It is not achieved through perfection or doing all these 10 steps I said perfect. It is built through, like I said, stable sleep, stable nutrition, reduced overload, predictable rhythm of your day, safe connections, reduced avoidance, gentle exposures, long-term consistencies, and your nervous system learned survival, but it can unlearn this constant need to be hyper focused on making sure it survives. Your body knows how to survive. We don't have to tell it how to survive. So it can learn safety too, just like it learned survival. It won't happen overnight. Like I said, don't expect that, but just know if you take the time to do these things consistently, and these are all free things you can do, really. And doing these over time, because a lot of times people look into like anxiety recovery and like things to do immediately to help like rid anxiety today, and they forget the basics of starting with the nervous system. And you might see as you regulate your nervous system, you're not as reactive to your anxiety and you're not as reactive to the heightened emotions, and everything feels a little more stable. I feel like that's the one thing I've really taken away from doing all of this within therapy, and I definitely highly recommend you bring all this to your therapist and talk about how you want this to be a goal for you. But doing all this in therapy, I noticed I was telling my husband and my family that I'm less irritable. I feel like my emotions are more regulated. Do I have anxiety still? Yeah. Do I struggle with sadness still sometimes? Yeah. It doesn't take away the emotions, but it takes the height of them. So everything feels a little bit more here rather than this. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And the next series we will be getting to is actually symptoms explained. And the next series is going to be basically for anybody who has struggled with some type of physical symptom from anxiety, and they just want to know why. That was the biggest thing for me. I feel like I kept hearing heart palpitations are normal, dizziness is normal, like with anxiety, and chest pain's normal with anxiety. But I'm such a visual person, maybe, that I needed to know exactly why that was happening. What about anxiety can cause that to happen to me? And then the more I learned that, the more I made peace and comfort with the symptoms that I was experiencing. So I hope that is going to be a helpful series for you. And I hope that the nervous system series, sorry guys, something you're going to learn about me is sometimes I mumble jumble my words, but I hope that this series was very helpful for you. I hope that you found something along the way and maybe you feel more motivated to really start wanting to regulate your nervous system. And yeah, I will talk to you guys next week. And I'm really happy that you're all here. And I hope that if you're also somebody who follows my Instagram, you have been following my story lately on a little setback I've been experiencing and just some things I've been experiencing with health anxiety and kind of going through it with you guys and sharing all that's helpful for me and everything that I'm doing. And I hope that it is helpful for anybody who maybe feels alone. And that's, you don't ever have to feel alone. There's always somebody who is going through what you're going through. And so you're safe with me. If you don't feel like you have anybody around you who gets it, I promise I get it. I've been there. I understand how hard it is at times, and we can get through this together. So, once again, thanks for listening and see you guys next week.